we're back on The Price of Business. I'm your host, Chris Kelso. Remember, you can check out this show and all the past shows anytime at priceofbusiness.com. I am back with Rob Cook with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Anderson Properties. Try to say that in
3 times quickly, and of course I noticed you had to draw a breath after you said that.
Woo, I'm still drawing it right now. So, Rob, what's been going on?
Well, we just got back from Fort Worth. The Texas Association of Realtors just had their annual conference, and we had probably 4,000 or 5,000 realtors up there hanging out. And the hotel in Fort Worth did a fabulous job of hosting us this year. We stayed there right at the Omni. I think you can send them an invoice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right there on Houston Avenue. And we had a good time. Learned a little bit stuff, things that are going on.
What's going on with national real estate right now?
Well, this is not national. This is, of course, Texas, and some of the things they're changing. They changed, they changed some of the forms that now we're going to have to retrain all the realtors out there on new forms. Now we're doing, and CFPB is a big impact on our forms. And I don't know if you've talked on this show about CFPB, but it's a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, and they've got a lot of rules, and they're going to be enforced as of October the 3rd. So if anyone out there is listening and their realtor isn't familiar with it, they need to get with it pretty quickly because things are going to change, and there's going to be rights of rescission, 3 days review. In the case of one of the big banks, they're going to do things by snail mail, so it could be as much as 6 days between the time they send out what they call a TRID,
right,
which is the Truth in Lending RESPA integrated disclosure.
Yep.
And that's 3 times quickly.
I know. Well, trust me. One of the things, as you're saying, the market is changing. October 3rd is some new forms coming out. Education is the key, though. I think education and information is the key to make sure that transactions continue smoothly. Yeah,
and it's not just education; it's understanding it. Because I've gone to 2 or 3 different CFPB, presentations, and each one I learned a little something extra. So I don't think it's a one-time go there and you're going to know what's going to be going on.
Right.
And it's going to impact the consumer. And I think where it's going to impact the consumers the most, if you're selling a house and also buying a house, and that person may be selling that house and buying another house, you may have 3 in the chain, and you've got all these rules now, CFPB, about days for disclosure, and if anything changes on the APR, which is the annual percentage rate, they get another 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to impact closing. And we don't know what it looks like yet. And I know you've warned everybody, and you're probably as versed on CFPB as anybody I know. But we don't know. We haven't lived with it.
I use your saying all the time, which is, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help."
That's right. Ronald Reagan was attributed with having said that, and it's the truth. I understand why they put regulation in place, but there's a thing as regulation, and then there's over-regulation.
Yes.
And in my opinion, I think we've overreached.
I think we've overreached. The good thing that is going to be happening, and I tell everybody this all the time, I think the new forms are actually really nice. They're very nice to read. They're very easy to look at numbers back and forth, to be able to see what you disclosed out, what they're closing on, the accuracy of them, and the fact there's now a signature page, which I think is extremely important. So there are a lot of good things that have happened there. I think, unfortunately, it's adverse effects sometimes, because what they're trying to do to really minimize one item of things, which is they want more accuracy in reporting, is going to end up hurting the consumer on the other side of things, in which you've got some delays, you've got some unintended consequences, we say, that are going to come up, that are going to rise because of this.
Well, the thing is, how it's going to impact consumers is because there's a cost. Every time you put regulation, there's a cost for compliance, and I know that your company spent a lot of money to just get ready to be in compliance. I mean, a couple of $100,000 plus, and every company has to do that, and all of a sudden somebody's got to cover that cost, so it's going to end up going back onto the consumer to pay it.
Well, I think that's a very good point you point out. Prior to 2008, the average mortgage company, these are not my numbers, these are national numbers, spent about 2% of their budget, annual budget, on compliancy. 2014, the average mortgage company spent over 30% of their annual budget on compliance. So, where is that? And I think all companies ask this, where is that happy medium? Because you can't pass on consumer savings when you're having to spend more money to be compliant in regards to it.
And most of this about disclosure, they weren't even really considering the unintended consequences. They were thinking about, protecting the consumer. And they're actually CFPBs are also overseeing other regulatory agencies. And so, but again, every time you do that, you're adding a cost. And what's going to happen with some of these small regional banks, they're talking about they're going to be out of the real estate lending business, which is your little farms and ranches and things like that out in the country. And pretty soon those people won't have access to financing.
Right.
Because these banks can't afford would it take to be in compliance? And I think that's going to be something that we're going to be facing probably a couple of years from now as to what that's going to look like.
And again, unintended consequence, but that's going to be something that's the reality of the situation.
So let me interview you here for a second. What do you see happening with rates?
Very good question. Rates right now are extremely low. The government had mentioned that they were going to start going up in rates this year, more importantly this month, the month of September. I don't see it happening this month, though. I don't think our government can go up right now. However, with that being said, rates have got to go up. If you look at and most people don't realize it's not just about what's going on stateside. We have China. We have other international economies. We have the International Monetary Fund. We have price wars going on against the dollar right now.
That's not a Kevin Price war, though.
No, not a Kevin Price war. So we have to shore up the dollar to make the dollar strong and to ensure that inflation continues to stay in check in the United States. We have to move up our interest rates. There's no way to get around it.
Well, just the rumor of rates going up sent the stock market spinning.
Yes.
It's been volatile all this week.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what it is today. I haven't seen it today, but it's been moving up and down. So investors are nervous.
Yes.
And so that makes it a really kind of a unknown as to what we're going to be dealing with. But you're right. Interest rates have been artificially held down for, 6 or 7 years?
I want to say right now that they're going on, probably the artificial perspective is post-2008 when the government started moving in.
Gosh, that'd be about 6 or 7 years.
And buying those mortgage-backed securities. So, we're looking at 6 to 7 years specifically. I want to say specifically about 6 years ago that they've been keeping them low. Now, I will tell you this. If you're listening today and you are out there and you are thinking about refinancing your home or you need to look at a new purchase, today's the day to do it. Right now is the time to do it. Take advantage of getting into that 15-year, that 30-year while you can do so today because it's not going to be around this much longer. And you definitely need to do so.
Well, this is a good point where I can turn to you and say, how can people get a hold of you?
You can always reach me, whether it be on the Price of Business or on my cell phone at 713-256-9138.
Can we do a shameless shout-out for the Real Estate Rat Pack on
You can
Saturday?
always do that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah. You can tune in and hear us live, both Chris and I, on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock on this station, 100.7 FM, KKHT. And we're live, and you can actually call in.
You can actually call in and ask questions. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about real estate, national real estate, and more importantly, the Houston real estate. I mean, the market's changing a lot. People, we're seeing a little bit of change in regards to supply and demand. Where do you see it going? Where is it right now?
We're still in a seller's market, but the inventory has moved up. We're kind of hovering around 4%, been all of last year. In fact, for 2 years, we were hovering around 2.6. Now, this is all over Houston.
Right.
You still getting pockets of Woodlands and Katy, which are high relocation markets. They're still hovering around in the 2-month range. Now, for everyone to know, a healthy market that's 6 months.
Right.
Supply of homes. And so when you start getting anything under that, it ends up being a little bit of a seller's market. We're seeing numbers go down. In fact, Dr. Ted Jones, who's the chief economist for Stewart Title, goes around the country and talks about, and his predictions have been pretty accurate because he said we're going to have about an 8% decrease in numbers. But our volume is higher because the higher end markets move in the market. And so we're seeing an uptick. We had about an 8 or 9% uptick in dollar volume, but a downtick in numbers.
Gotcha. Okay. And, I guess long term, I mean, what's the prognosis for where real estate's going to be maybe 3 to 5 years from now? We have an election coming up next year, which is always one of those things that ends up having that people, sort of are nervous for that. And then I think that's, one of the things is what's going to happen? Where are we going to go? Are we going red? Are we going blue? What's going to continue to move forward from there? And then more importantly is, we're still in a very healthy market right now. We're still, 6 months is considered a healthy one. We're below that. Are we moving from that hyper to a more normalization? Absolutely.
I think that's what it is. We're getting out of what they all termed as a hyper market, which is not good for us because that's what creates bubbles.
Right.
Bubbles what killed California, Nevada, and Florida. The prices were so inflated, and then when there was a normalization of the market or people pulled out of the market, prices collapsed. We never had that. We have so much areas in which we can expand. We always kept our supply kept up. And so we went up a little bit at a time, and a lot of people say, well, invested in Houston, we're only going to go up maybe 6 to 8% a year. And I said, yeah, how about that? Isn't that great? Because if you're getting that swing of 20, 30% swing in prices in a year's time or something, right, that's not good.
No. And we do not want to experience we all know what took place in California and Nevada and Florida and some of those areas. That's not something we want to repeat here at any given moment.
No, not at all. And of course, we did have some some areas that were kind of like a bubble, like the Heights and stuff like that, where prices were driven up quickly, but it's kind of settled down now. So I think that's good. We're going to kind of stay within inflation rates.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am getting the signal that we eventually have to go to a break here. How can we reach you if you don't mind?
You can reach me at 281-543-0527, and that's my cell phone, and actually I answer it.
You do answer it. Say it one more time.
281-543-0527.
We refer to him as the godfather of real estate. He's also my co-host on the Real Estate Rat Pack radio show you can catch on 100.7 FM every Saturday. I am the host today, filling in for Kevin Price. We enjoy everything we do here, but we have one more segment to come up, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
London calling to the faraway towns. Now war is declared.